Thanks for tuning into the Hidden Tracks podcast. You can find us wherever you find podcasts or listen to music. When you have an opportunity, please give us a 5-star review, write a little note, tell us how we're doing. We really appreciate it. It helps us keep this thing going. If you want to reach out to us, you can find us at Facebook at Hidden Tracks. Instagram is at HiddenTracks99, and if you'd like to send in submissions or talk to us or give us any feedback about what we're doing, our email is myhiddentracks99@gmail.com. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show. What's up, everybody? I have Ean from the new band, the Subjunctives. You may know his previous work in a band, Sicko, that I've talked about on the show before. So this is a long time coming for a punk rock kid to have someone he's admired from afar for a long time on the show and enjoying what it is he's doing now. Taking punk rock to where it all began, to 1.5 to 2 minute songs that get right to the point and are catchy and hooky and leave you wanting more. And I think that's what punk rock always did. So thank you, Ean, for the Subjunctives and doing what you've done for me your whole life.
Oh, gosh, that's a lot of compliments. Thank you very much, Shane. I appreciate that.
So why don't you give us a little back story of how the Subjunctives became a thing and you started working with these guys and putting out new music?
Sure. I had lived overseas for quite some time and has really checked out of rock music for maybe 10 years or something. And I came back to Seattle, I guess it must have been the mid-20 teens, something like that. And I saw a show at a local club, and this band was it was great. They were fun. They were playing fast pop punk music. They were even all wearing suits. And I was like, what is this? I was like, oh my God, it's the 90s again. Someone's doing, I thought no one really liked pop punk music anymore. I didn't really pay attention to it after 1998 at all. And anyway, I saw this show. It was a band called the Four Lights. And I just thought, oh my gosh, You can have a punk rock band, a pop punk band, and people will come and see your band. And I thought, this is great. I want to do this. And so, and it was really weird, actually. This woman walked into the bar and I thought, God, she looks familiar. And I couldn't place her. And I said, gosh, I know her from somewhere, but where? And then I realized it was Amanda Knox, of all the people in the world. And somehow she knows the guys in that band, or knows somebody who knows guys in that band. But
hope they weren't in Italy together.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was really inspired by that, in that you could do that there could be, those kind of bands again. And so I kind of got to work on a new band. I got to work on a record compilation called 14 Soda Punks, and a friend of mine, Kathy, suggested, you should have a show for that. And so that's how the Seattle Pop Punk Festival was born. We made this documentary disc of, I guess, 14 bands, and then had them plus a whole bunch more play at a 3-day, I guess it was probably the first year, it was a 2-day music festival. And, it was a really interesting time here. I guess 2016 or whatever, something like that. There was a ton of pop punk bands playing in town. They all knew each other. They all went to each other's shows. People were very excited. They were all maybe 10, 15 years younger than me. And it just reminded me of that wonderful time in the early 90s where there were all these great pop punk bands. It was all underground then. It wasn't, it was a weird, fringy genre at that time. We all knew each other. We all went to each other's shows. We were all excited about each other's records when they came out and supported each other. And so Four Lights kind of gave me that inspiration, and to go out and see these other bands. And then I thought, God, this is vibrant enough. I need to document this. And then, nothing like a record release party. And that kind of got the whole thing going. And ironically, the first bass player of the Subjunctives, there's been a number of lineup changes. The first bass player of the Subjunctives quit for entirely reasonable reasons. He's, a guy in his 50s and his children and responsibilities and things like me. But he chose to do the grown-up thing and focus on that. And I put out a call for a bass player, and one of the members of the Four Lights, that's Jeff, Tahoe Jeff, he volunteered. And so now he's been our bass player for at least 5 years, maybe longer than that. So it was fortuitous that I saw them, and kind of it pulled me back into the whole thing.
Wow. And that's the full circle moment, right? And back in the 90s, how you brought that up, I mean, that's when I grew up, and that's when I first found your band Sicko. And back in the day, for the kids listening to this, what you don't understand is I have my stack of Sicko records sitting right here, because back at that point, it was cheaper to buy records than it was for a CD. So I still have all of my records from back in the day when I was that fringe pop punk, as you called it. It was just an underground thing, but it was such a large community too for being an underground thing, and having bands from all over the country. I'm a Jersey boy, and being a Jersey boy, getting a pop punk band from Seattle was enlightening. It was like, shit, this is all over the place. It's not just in the fire halls here in Jersey. It's everywhere.
You must know my friends Alan and Tim from Pop Kid Records.
Yes.
It's so funny. I wish you could see this. I've gone through some old photos. Alan made he worked at this record store called Flipside Records.
Yep, and that's where I used to go and hang out with Alan all the time, and that's how I have the Sicko records, because you got to hear this band when I in the 90s when I was in high school. You got to hear this band; they're so good.
He was the he was a quintessential record store clerk from High Fidelity. Kind of educating folks. I know so many people who have that same story. It's funny. There's this old stack of photos I'm going through, and it's a picture of Flipside's display window where Alan had taken covers, I guess posters, from the Chef Boy Are You Dumb record, and wrapped them around like these sort of round, these kind of circular, like cardboard or something, and so it looks like soup cans, or I guess cans of Chef
Yeah.
Boyardee. And there's one spilled out there with a bunch of, like, I guess supposed to be tomato sauce or something coming out of it, but they're stacked up like a crappy Warhol or something, and one fell off, and there's tomato sauce all over the place, and I'll have to scan this in and send it to you.
Yeah, he was a consummate artist, and those are the days that I sometimes long for and wish that I was that high fidelity guy where I just was there educating people. This is the way I do it now, but educating people on music that's awesome. That's kind of harder for people to find, and that's what
is hard. Yeah, it's hard. There's a lot of chaff. There's a lot of stuff that's highly unrelated, and finding a new. There are gems. I find them from time to time. But it is hard to get to the good stuff.
It really is. I mean, I spend hours on hours pouring in and going over music and finding stuff that I want to support and that I want to stand behind. And it really, I have at the end of the show here, we'll do it here today too, but I have a weekly 3 segment where I put out 3 things that I'm listening to, and I think you should too. But it's so hard what people don't understand is, yeah, I do this weekly, but it's really hard to come up with the 3. It's really hard to find the 3 that I'm willing to, put my stamp on and say, go listen to these 3 bands because they're fucking great. And because there's so much shit out there and there's only so much time in the day to find these guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that really resonates with me. I am always looking for music to inspire me. I think it's hard. I think it's easy to get really turned on by, a great band when you're 18 or 19. Like, your mind is sort of open to that. And, I still, some of my favorite bands are the bands that I found when I was that young age, but I'm still searching. I'm always buying records and downloading things and listening to podcasts and listening to, Spotify or whatever. And I don't know if it's because I'm grouchy and old, or, if it's because I'm in a genre that's kind of been done to death or what. I mean, but I find a lot of stuff that oh, that doesn't work. I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that. But then I find stuff that's amazing. Like I'm listening to this Korean pop punk band called Drinking Boys and Girls Choir, which is just like, it's kind of reminds me of some of the stuff that we were hearing in the late 90s out of Japan in a way. Like, reminds me of like the Penetrates and other sort of girl groups, but they're fucking awesome. I mean, they're just shredding, and they're so good and so fun and so full of energy. It's really exciting for me to hear it and to find a band that's this awesome. And I struggle actually to find something that good. You know what I got turned on to recently? Also, Iron Chic, and I know that's a little bit dated.
Yeah, they're awesome. I actually talked about them on a podcast I recorded yesterday, that I said the first time I saw them, they opened for my favorite punk band, which was Face to Face. They opened for them, and I just looked at my friends. I'm like, well, Face to Face better fucking bring it tonight, because whatever just happened was the greatest fucking thing I've ever seen.
Right. Like, they're fantastic. And God, I'm such an idiot for remembering that. Like, there's probably 3 or 4 others like that I've recently come across that I'm just like, oh, hey, here's something that's finally really exciting. But it's rare. And so, yeah.
It's the musical landscape that we live in today, that there's so much available, but it's so hard to find, right? It's almost like when you try to sit down on streaming services and find something to watch, you spend more time scrolling than you do actually ever watching anything.
Oh, it's so true. There's so much there. And what people will call pop punk particularly, I mean, some of it I'm like, wow, this really is not what I had in mind. And not in a good way. Oh, you know what? This is great too. Tightwire. Have you heard this band?
I have not. So
they are on Red Scare. They have a new record, Head Full of Snakes. it's incredible. Like the songwriting is nuts. It's so good, so hooky. A little bit Ramones Corey, but more kind of like Iron Chic in that kind of like real songwritery way. I
Yeah.
listen to that over and over and over again.
I'm definitely going to check that out.
I would check out Tightware, and Drinking Girls and Boys Choir, but I mean the number of records that I've gone through trying to come to that.
Yeah.
Like those two realizations. I wouldn't like to be in your position. Like every week, do you do this, and you have to recommend 3 things in a week?
Every week I do this. Yeah,
That's
and
brutal.
I mean the good thing for me that it is music's such a huge part of my life that I don't mind it so much, but sometimes I get on this movement where I'll find that I've been listening to music for 2 hours and I haven't found anything that I would recommend to anybody. And then I'm like, all right, it's kind of like when you lose something, you're better off stopping looking for it because you're going to find it if you stop looking for it. So,
yeah, that makes sense. Yep.
Yeah, it's a tough thing, but I love when I do find it. It's that feeling. It's that 15-year-old feeling when you're 15 years old and you hear something new for the first time, right? And talking about pop punk, there are bands that are calling themselves pop punk. And I've had people send me stuff and they'll be like, "Listen, you're not pop punk because no pop punk artist would ever write a 5-minute fucking song for every song." Yeah, they would do it as a joke as the final song on an album, but every song can't be 4.5, 5 minutes. That's not pop punk.
That's fair. I think that's fair enough. Yeah.
So let's go back to the beginning for you.
Sure.
When you're growing up and you're a kid and music, became a part of your life. Do you remember as a child what it was that, did you grow up in a musical household? Was there something that you remember that just clicked for you as a child when it came to music?
I was thinking you might ask me this question. I actually called my mom about this today. So there was this thing here in Seattle, and I cannot remember the name of the woman who ran this business. So just imagine her name is Mrs. Jones, right? I called my mom and she couldn't remember her name, but she had this thing for little kids called Mrs. Jones's Rhythm Band. And what it was is, young parents would bring in their toddlers, their 3 whatever-year-old kids, and Mrs. Jones would, teach them the basics of rhythm, and they would get to play an instrument, and they would play as an ensemble. And it sounded very like, kind of like intellectually stimulating for young children and this kind of thing. And and she had this space, this kind of this big room, and with sort of lots of wood, and kind of near the University of Washington. And each kid had an instrument, and the instruments were like, a little bongo drums, or a little, a little like tambourine, or a little maracas, or a little glockenspiel, or there's boxes of these instruments. And the kids would all get in a circle neatly with their little instrument, and then she would sort of try to get them to get started, and it just instantly became a room full of little kids beating the shit out of these instruments.
That's all I pictured when you started.
Yeah. And just no beat, no rhythm, and just cacophonous, horrible noise. And, parents wincing, and Mrs. Jones sort of, serenely trying to clap time through it. And that, I do believe, was my first exposure to the performance arts. And
if you can call it that.
Yeah. I mean, really, punk rock isn't that much of a step beyond the old rhythm band. But, I did the normal stuff, I guess, for my sort of age and time, and, sort of upbringing. I had piano lessons from
everyone. I mean, I think everyone around our age, I used to say it was part of the furniture. Every household we went into had a piano.
Yeah. So I did that, was horrible at it. My father had been in a dance band in high school and in the 50s, and, kind of pre-rock and roll. So he played trumpet, and he wanted me to play trumpet. He was a big fan of Herb Alpert. I don't know if you remember that guy.
Yep.
The clan, whipped cream and other delights, and
Yep.
really dog shit music. But
Yeah, Solasime did that cover, right?
yes, exactly. And anyway, he wanted me to play trumpet, and so I played trumpet in junior band in middle school, and the marching band briefly in high school, and then if you're really shit like I was, they shuffle you over to tuba or sousaphone. So I was a sousaphone player, and then in the concert band and the orchestra, I played tuba, and I was pretty much terrible at that too. And music was around me all the time. My parents had piano in the house. There's a stereo with lots of records and all that. And every kid in the house, all my brothers and sisters and I had to take music lessons. And, I really dragged my feet through it. Didn't like it. But I do feel like it kind of exposed me to it. And it was strange. My father had this in the attic, this old, like, really crappy guitar that I think his dad had brought home from some business trip, and warped, and old strings, and not low quality, terrible, right? And
Yeah.
I just thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen, and I picked it up and started playing it, even though I was supposed to be practicing trumpet at some point. I never did that, but I played this damn guitar like it seemed like any chance I got. We went somewhere, I took it with me. And it just kind of became part of my like daily life, was playing this thing. I couldn't really play it, but I would play like one string, and I figured out how to play that line from the Rolling Stones song, the line from Satisfaction, na, 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 na. I played that over and over like 40 billion times. And, my parents were they were happy I'd found something, I think, but it was super annoying. And it was never not there. I was never not there, basically playing one song for a long time. And that sort of progressed into, an actual real classical guitar. And it's sort of a half, my family's Spanish. And so he wanted me, wow, if he's going to play guitar, it's got to be classical or flamenco or something like that. And I was crap at that. And what I really wanted was an electric guitar. And finally, there was an electric guitar. And that, kind of started me playing in bands, and hanging out with musicians.
What was the name of the very first band you got in?
The very first band that I was in was called The Shades. And we all wore sunglasses while we were playing.
Wow. There it is. I mean, at least you had something to go with the name,
Well,
it would have been tough if you were like the shitbags and, you're...
Yeah, this was kind of like a classic rock kind of stuff, AC/DC, and, that kind of thing. Born to Wee Wild, and we played a few house parties. I'm actually still friends with all those guys, and we kind of all got together recently to reminisce. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, that was the first band. I didn't really get turned on to punk until I was a sophomore in college. And a friend of mine took my live Led Zeppelin tape and recorded the Descendants on one side and the Sex Pistols on the other, over the Led Zeppelin, and sort of, introduced me to that world, which was,
was punk rock to ruin your Led Zeppelin tape.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I think, it's the right way. Yeah. Marlon basically, dude, give me this tape, and he put that stuff on there, and I, kind of very, very quickly became super interested in that genre of music and began to really consume it with the same sort of intensity as that sort of initial guitar playing stuff. And it got kind of positioned me, I think, where I was probably meant to be, like, as a person who plays guitar in a sort of punk band. That seems to be the thing that is the most like me out of all of those other scenarios that I described.
So it just fit. It was like, a perfect hat. It just fit.
It was motivating. Yeah. I mean, it was inspiring and motivating, and it was a good time for punk. Like, I mean, those guys were, Black Flag had broken up Well, hadn't even broken up yet. Like this would have been 19. No, I guess they just had. So they broke up in 87, and this was like 88. And so they just that was still going on. SST was still a thing. Dinosaur Jr. only had their first 2 records out. Sonic Youth hadn't put out Daydream Nation yet. Fugazi hadn't come out with 13 songs yet. Like, it was still kind of just that really cool late 80s era for punk. And so, you just had all this great stuff, and it was all recent. I mean, Stiff Little Fingers, the Undertones, the Ramones, the Angry Samoans. I mean, that just blew my mind when I heard that, and so on and so forth. And it was really before this pop punk thing that I got sort of linked up with, but it was all the inputs. Husker Du, that was a huge one for me. And the Fastbacks put out the record. Green Day put out their first record, and that was sort of like a real eye opener for me. It's about 89, I guess.
Yeah, Smooth Out Sloppy Hours. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and they so it was a really interesting time. And so I had sort of been, I guess I didn't realize it, but I was well positioned to appreciate that music, and for sort of all my sort of upbringing with the 80s punk rock, to have sort of pop punk in my face and be like, this is home base. This is who I am. And so those first records, like I said, the very, very powerful Motor by the Fastbacks, 39 Smooth by Green Day, Cringer's Karen 7-inch, Mr. T Experience, Making Things with Light. All those records were there, and I was like, this is my people. This is my tribe.
And I look back at those times too. I mean, it was the same stuff that was happening for me. And I mean, growing up in the 80s, the only way, for normal people to get their music was you were being told what to listen to on the radio and MTV and stuff like that. Yeah. And it was being able to find one person that can show you something and lead to this whole other community of people and music. It's so crazy to me of how great it was. I think it's taken a huge step back, but I mean, the days of the fanzines and you're just there was ways that we got the information to other people, like-minded people like ourselves, to say, hey, you got to listen to this. You got to listen to this. You got to listen to this. And it was so awesome. And I think that was a lot of the fun was there because of that. You had fun when you would get a fanzine and you'd read an album review. You'd go find wherever you could to get that specific album, and then you get to show it to your friends who haven't heard it or know about it yet. And it was just it was always exciting.
I think it's really interesting. Yeah, the Torchbearers. I mean, I think Alan, he really did that for a lot of people. They were playing, a lot of towns will have that sort of place where people go to learn, and there's that person who enjoys teaching.
Yeah.
And I think Alan really filled that role in New Jersey. For me, it's that same guy that I described, my friend Marlon. He, who took my live Led Zeppelin tape. So he had long hair. I had long hair. He was trying to sleep with this woman in the dormitory I was in. And so he would be there a lot. And it was, you have long hair, I have long hair, I have a leather jacket, you have a leather jacket. He's like, what's up, dude? And we just sort of became friends, and we should go to a show sometime. I'm like, okay. I'd never been to an underground show. I'd only been to see AC/DC in Boston and stuff like that.
What was your very first show that you ever went to?
The first concert I ever saw was Van Halen 5150.
Wow. Good for you.
Yeah, it was a pretty sick show, actually. We loved
Mine was Kenny Rogers, so you just blew me out of the fucking
nice. The Gambler. That's sweet. Those guys had a band, and they said, hey, do you want to come watch us practice? I'm like, yeah. And I watched them practice, and I go, I remember they played this song. I said, "What the hell? That song was great!" Like the third or fourth song they played, and they go, "Oh, it's a cover of this band Black Flag. It's called Rise Above." And I'm like, "That's a freaking great song." And they're like, "Oh, well, you should check this out." And they're like, "Have you heard Black Flag?" I'm like, "No." So they put on the damaged record, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Holy shit!" And then they're like, "Hey, here's the Angry Smones, Lights Out." I'm like, "Oh my god!" And they're like, "Husker Du, Flip Your Wig," and like, and they just, it's one of those, college crappy house with a bunch of dudes living there in a band, and then just piles of records, right? And they just had like you kind of described, they had a blast just saying, "Ian, you need to hear this band. You need to hear this band. You need to hear this band," and I was just like, just primed and ready. And here were these guys who were just, having the time of their lives, turning me on to, the Descendants, turning me on to the Melvins or Mudhoney or, or even, back then Nirvana with their first record.
Yeah.
So there was this sort of transfer moment where I found my people, and they were like, "We're going to educate you." And, it was all stuff that I wanted to know about, and it was stuff that I was hungry for. And so it was a very natural transition of information.
Yeah. And those are, I love that a bunch of people in a room, listening to music and all enjoying it, and especially being able to open someone's ears to something new. A while back, I used to host in my studio a pick your side Saturday night, and it was, you go through my record collection. A bunch of us would get together, and you just go through, and a band you haven't heard, you take the album out, and we put one side on, and we all have to sit there and listen to it and talk about it when it's over.
That's fun. That's a great idea for a party. That's super fun. I'm gonna try that. I've got a huge record collection down here. I love to bring people down here and like have them just pick through, and I see what they pull out and stuff. And
oh yeah, well, when people see my music, the room, they're like, "What in the fuck is going on?" I'm like, "What do you mean,
problem, bro?"
You're like, you have an entire music store here, because I have my tapes on the walls, my CDs, all my records, and they're just like, "How do you have enough time?" I'm like, "Well, whenever I get something, I make sure." Like, I had to slow down going to record stores because I would come home with stacks and stacks. So I was like, you know what? My limit from now on is going to be 5, and I have to listen to all 5 of those before I go out and get something new.
And don't you find that it's more rewarding to discover a new band on vinyl than it is on Spotify?
Yes.
Like,
absolutely.
Because you're gambling. Like,
well, that's how we grew up. We gambled because it was so expensive. There was no way to get music. So I talk about it all the time. When you bought a CD and they were $20 fucking, you're now committed to that fucking CD. So you better learn to love it.
Yeah. And I mean, it is easy to not get the right record, or it'd be even easy to get the wrong record by the right band,
Yeah.
Denny and Josh used to tease me mercilessly. Like, they're like, "Oh, they're super into the Replacements." And I liked Let It Be, and I wanted to get more into that. And I went to the record store here called Cellophane Square in the University District. And I said, "Do you have any Replacements?" And they said, "Yeah, here's this one." And it was Don't Tell a Soul. And I brought it home and listened to it. And I liked it. That was pretty good. And they're like, "Oh, Ian, Tim, or Sorry Ma, bro, seriously, you bought that one? What is wrong with you?" Like, you could find like a turd in a haystack, and like, and I'm like, "Well, I didn't know that was all there was at the store." Back then the choices were very limited. So you kind of, it was all word of, and then I knew, oh, well, sorry, I should have bought Sorry Ma and Tim. So, so or whatever it was, I should have done that. So next time I went, I bought those records.
Yeah.
Is it Stink? Yeah. Stink and Sorry Ma. Those are the ones those two were wound up about, but, not Tim. That's a whole other story. But I think it's more exciting, right? Like, if you drop a hook in the water and you just pull up, 10 pounders every cast, I don't think it's not as addictive or as exciting than, oh, here's 4 promising things this one sucked. This one's, oh, well, I guess it's okay, but I don't want it. I'm going to sell it back. And then this one's like blowing my mind. It's so awesome. So, and then, like if they were all winners, it would probably, I don't know, it wouldn't be quite as much of a roller coaster ride.
Yeah. And especially today too, with finding that music, you talked about, you said Spotify, and my big thing and my big gripe about something is if I do hear something from someone and I get a little excited about it, and then I go to find that they only have 2 fucking singles out in the past 2 years, I get really fucking pissed off. Like, I'm like, this doesn't excite me at all. Now I'm angry because at least you knew when you were going out to get albums by bands you didn't know or things you may have just heard an inkling from. You had more to go to. And now it's like, oh, well, my friends and I recorded a song. We're thinking about starting a band, and it's out there and it catches you, and then there's nothing else. And it's like, well, I'm gone now. Like, you lost me.
Right. Yeah, right. Like you bothered to get on the hook and there's nothing more there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? It's like you find a vein that you want to mine and you realize there's nothing else left there.
Yeah.
That's happened to me before with bands that I'm trying to think, what's a good example of that, where they did something and it's the best darn thing. And you're like, this is amazing. And then they didn't do much else, or they sort of had to change directions or something like that. And, and you just can't, you're like, oh, but I wanted more to be like that,
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of bands too that came out and like would have a killer album, or like they'd have one album that's fucking amazing, and then you never hear from them again. You're like, and you always sit back and wonder, like, what happened? Like, how did they make such brilliance on something and then they're just gone?
Oh, I can imagine what happened. I think really the relevant question is, how did they get far enough to actually get 12 songs on a disc? Yeah. It's amazing that it's such a pain in the ass to do it. And people have so many absolutely fantastic reasons to not be in a band. Very credible, good, solid adult reasons to not be in bands. You really, in a sense, it's like, oh, it's amazing that they actually got those, they got a record out. And then the guys that are like somehow make, 20 records.
Yeah.
You're like, who are you? How did you manage that?
How's Bad Religion still putting up? You know what I like?
Yeah. It's a good example. Or I always, think of Lance Hahn and Jay Church, because I think it was 40 records, something like that.
Yeah, well, they were Drake before Drake was Drake. They just kept it's also guided by voices too, like Robert Pollard.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, anything he has an idea in his head, it's a song now, and now I'm releasing it, and I'm making a whole album of it.
I love it. He had, last I checked, he had 1,700 albums in. No, 1,700. Sorry, songs in BMI. Yeah. Good for him. I love the work ethic.
And the thing about it too is, even when I listen to, because they are like every year there's a new Guided by Voices, or Robert Pollard does something, or comes up with a new band name and does stuff. I enjoy it. Like, and that's what's crazy too to me, is that I can sit down and listen to it and be like, I still like it. Like, someone is that, into what they're doing and so creative and can just keep you. Like, he's got me. Like, that's how it works. Like, you got me, man. And I guess I'm here forever.
Yeah, I get that way with a band where like they've earned my trust. Or I wrote this once about REM, because it's a big REM fan. I got a bad REM record in. I was like, oh, good Lord, they're phoning this in. And then, but the next record came out and it was amazing. And I think it was their last record, actually. No, the second to last record. And I wrote about it, and I was like, I believe in them. I believe in REM. I know that even if they make a bad record, there's a great song coming from them soon. And, they have my trust, and they did. Like, I mean, they put out one more good record after that. And then they decided to quit. But yeah, I love that about Robert Pollard. Like, there is for sure any new Robert Pollard project has a certain amount of Robert Pollard dreck.
Yeah.
But man, you go in there and there's going to be a hook of hooks song that is cool and elegant and whimsical and rocks, and it's just like 100% grade AAA American rock and roll, and I trust that brand. I think it's legit. It's time tested. Not always stellar, but there's not going to be a well, I don't know. With that many records, maybe there is.
Yeah, there's
general
some stuff. Yeah, in general. I mean,
there's gonna be some gems on there.
Yeah, you can take everything that they've ever done and you can put together an 8-disc box set of their greatest hits, and I don't think that would still hold enough. It's just one of those bands.
Yeah, pretty amazing. I respect the work ethic. I know what it takes to make a record, a credible record, and that is a lot of work.
Yeah, and I mean, you just used the words "phone it in" for an REM record, and that's the thing. Like anytime I hear something from Pollard, I don't catch any phoning it in. On anything there's not always every album isn't filled with 12 winners. There's 3 or 4, but it's not like he just gave up on anything. At that moment, he thought that was what was going to be good.
I think you have to be really honest with yourself to write quality material. You have to be kind of ruthless. You have to say, that's not good enough. I need to try harder. Maybe if I write 10 more verses, I'll get one that's good. That song sounds too much like the last one,
Yeah, that's really hard. Doing that and having so much, like how, especially when you've been doing it for that long, like how do you even know?
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. That's a weird one. I mean, I don't have that many songs. I can pretty quickly figure out, did I write this song already? With 1,700 songs, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he has some incredible mind, There's people who can play 9 games of chess in their mind at one time, but maybe he has that. But that would be a risk of repeating oneself.
Yeah. Like think about making the set list, right?
I mean, I've seen pictures of him where there's a lot of songs on those set lists. Like the guys in those bands, just to be in that band, he's like, well, here's the 30 songs we're playing tonight, from a list of 400 that you have to know to go on tour with Robert.
And every time I see him, there's always new people in the band because it's like, they're like, we didn't get paid enough for this, and I'm tired.
Yeah, he broke a couple more guitar players.
Yeah. Oh man! Now, talking about playing and stuff, is there a memory in your mind of a live performance that either good or bad that is just always stuck in that part of your brain that you can never get rid of?
Well, there's lots and lots of good memories. I think the more entertaining ones are usually the bad ones. So I'll tell you one of my favorites. One time, Sicko was touring the Midwest, and we went to Lawrence, Kansas, I think it was. And this is not a big town. We pulled up to the bar, which looked like it had been Kentucky Fried Chicken or something. Or maybe more like a Sherry's or something, and then had been converted into a bar. I got there, this lady was working, and we said, hi, we're this band Sicko. We're from the Lobotomy Talent Group. We have a gig here tonight. And she's like, I've never heard of any of that stuff, And we're like, God damn it, this again, just like, because especially first tours, that happens, right? Like people don't care. No one knows, and no one showed up. And she goes, but hey, and we're like, fine. And she goes, hey, listen, if you want to play, you can. And we're like, okay, we'll play. This will be interesting. And so we're loading our stuff in, and there's this guy there drinking a beer, like reading a paper or something, kind of punk rock looking sort of guy. And he says, hey, what kind of band are you? And we said, well, we're a punk band. And he goes, are you fucking kidding me? That's awesome. We never get any of that around here. Dude, I'm going to go home, and I'm going to call all my friends, and they're going to fucking come to the show tonight. This is going to be fucking awesome. And we're like, oh, like we're making lemonade out of lemons. This is going to be awesome, right? So, we get set up, we get sound check and all that stuff. We're ready to go. He comes back with his friends. Turns out he and his friends are a skinhead gang.
Ah.
And we're like, and I don't mean like some nice sharp skins or whatever, like 70s oi guys. I'm talking like dudes with swastika tattoos on their necks and shit like that. Right? Really fucking scary guys, you know. They brought their own beer steins to the show.
Of course they did.
Yeah. And, you know, we're just little West Coast Seattle, nice liberal boys. We don't run across stuff like that. Like we don't come across that stuff. So we're like, holy fucking shit. You know, there's a guy, I'll never forget this guy. I mean, there are a lot of swastikas and SS tattoos and stuff. One guy had a German army helmet tattooed on the side of his head. And I thought, that is the weirdest fucking tattoo I've ever, like, you are really owning it, dude. So, you know, we are like, oh, fuck, what have we gotten into? You know, Josh is Jewish, Ian's Hispanic, you know, this is going to go over like a fucking lead balloon. We're dead. And so they're all sitting there, they get all topped up on their beer. And we go up on the stage and we're getting ready to play this show. And they're all just sort of sitting there kind of, you know, got their beer stands, they're kind of lean back and what the hell is this? Check this out, you know. And I thought this could really easily become one of those like Blues Brothers, you know, we play both kinds of music kind of type of situations, right? Where you just like piss off this crowd and you're like getting a lot of trouble. And we went up on the stage, we got ready to start. And usually we used to say something snotty, like back then I would usually say, you know, something about, oh, consider this like a lesson in punk or something like that. You know, some idiotic,
something really stupid like that. Yeah.
Something stupid and childish and, you know, and we're snobby. And we usually used to do that and be 1, 2, 3, 4, and we just bust into it and, you know, play 3 or 4 songs really fast in a row. And that was kind of cool, at least in our minds. Anyway, so we get ready to start and Danny looks over at me. We're both sitting at the mic. He says, don't say a fucking thing, Ian. And I look over at him and I go, I know, Danny. 1, 2, 3, 4. We played this set within one song. These guys were in love with us. They were up. They were swinging their beer steins and trying to sing along and cheersing us and fist pumping in the air. They were loving it. They fucking loved the whole set. Afterwards, they were just like, oh, you guys are so great. You know, like you can just imagine terrifying skinhead guys with their arm around, like, you know, us, like, you know, yeah. Oh, you're great. And we're like, oh my God.
Waiting for them to hold you down to put tattoos on you.
Or kill us or whatever, you know. And so like, and why's your roadie got such short hair? Was he a sharp? We might have to kiss his ass, all this stuff. And, you know, saying the kind of terrible things that you would expect a Nazi skinhead gang to say in the early 90s in Lawrence, Kansas. And they bought a ton of our shit. We got out of there and we're like, holy fucking cow. That is not the only time we got out of situations where like we might die, but that is one of them.
Well, I mean, now you had them sporting Sicko gear.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that's a really good point. Well, it kind of ended on that note, actually, because the next morning we went to Safeway to get, you know, breakfast, right? Get some juice and whatever. And me and Josh were standing at the, like a checkout. And I go, dude, I don't know, it was like $80 or something. I go, this is the skinhead money. And we're like, he looks at it like it, you know, had it 3 heads, you know. I go, what do we do with this? And there was a UNICEF jar there. And we're just like, slid the skinhead money in the UNICEF box. And we fucking washed our hands of it. So yeah, it's interesting. I never thought of that actually until now. I've told that story a million times. There are definitely some skinheads with probably now too small for them, Sicko t-shirts in their basement somewhere.
It's fucking hysterical to think. That's what I thought about right away. I was like, now you just got some skinheads in Lawrence, Kansas running around in Sicko merch.
Perfect. Just what we need. Yeah. That sounds about right for us. Anyway, that show stays in my mind. There are others, but I remember being genuinely afraid and then pleased that we had made it out unscathed, and then later feeling gross, like, you know, like, or yucky, like, oh, we shouldn't have this money. And that's how it ended.
Well, that's a big deal too for a band to start out to take $80 back then and just be like, we can't have this.
We can't have this. What are we going to spend this on?
What do we tell our parents when we get home?
Yep.
Wow. I mean, you should have opened that show just playing the original version of Closer to Fine. This is our favorite band, Indigo Girls, and we're going to open with this cover.
That one used to raise eyebrows in the South. And I think that was where people would just crack up and thought it was hilarious. Because, punk covers has been a thing since the 70s, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, the Ramones were doing covers of 50 songs way back. But I don't think it quite reached the sort of volume of punk covers that we have now by that point. And so it was a little like funny that we're doing a cover of the Indigo Girls in this way. And I think it entertained people. I think people thought it was funny and irreverent. And by the way, I love the Indigo Girls. I have several Indigo Girls records and I've seen them live and I think they're wonderful.
I'm not going to sit here and say I haven't seen them live more than once. I'm not going to say that I haven't.
So I was always a fan, and that was Denny's idea, another fantastic Denny idea, and it really landed, actually.
It did. I remember getting the album and like it ending with that, and I was like, wait a minute. And then like my sister came into my room and was like, hey, what is that? Is that the Indigo? I'm like, yeah, I know you love the Indigo Girls. I think it is the Indigo Girls. She's like, play that again. And she's like, I don't hate it. And then she just would walk out.
I don't hate it. That's great. Your sister sounds hilarious. I wonder, I'd like to think that those ladies at some point heard that.
They had to have.
They can't. I hope they're not mad because back in those days, you just covered things. You didn't like get a license. Like now I get a license, right?
Yeah.
I even got a license for the little tag of Rise Above that we put in that funny song about Henry Rollins on our record. And I'm like, I do not want to be in trouble with Greg Ginn. Like that would be A, I'd get my butt kicked, and B, it would be soul destroying because I'm such a huge admirer of him. And I wrote my business school entrance essay on Greg Ginn.
Wow.
That's how much I love Greg Ginn. So I was like, I'm gonna pay the fee, make sure I don't get in trouble.
Well, yeah, that back then, I mean, everything could be covered, right? I mean, because that was punk rock. You were just taking songs and covering them, and there's no way that they didn't hear that version. I mean, I don't care what they say. I just saw Toad the Wet Sprocket recently, and they played it. They covered it on stage, and I was just like, wow. I mean, this song just holds up the test of time, and it's one of those songs that like anybody can do. Like if you play it with good intentions, I don't think you can fuck that song up because it's just a perfect song.
That's a good point.
Well, wow, we're covering a lot of stuff here. So I want to get let's get back to the Subjunctives, and let me ask you a question. If no one ever heard of the Subjunctives and you said, oh no, this is my new band, and you had to play them a song that would best sum up what you are, what song of yours would you play for them?
I think at the moment, my answer to that would be it's a shame we didn't get more Time Lance. I feel like that is tonally representative, and it's also, I think, us sounding kind of at our best. It also demonstrates, I think, the vocal harmonization that's become a real thing for us.
Well, good choice.
It's also like for the people that are in the know of the, for a lot of us, he was a big deal. And, so that name and that sort of identity, I think, resonate with, I think to unpeel the onion slightly more, there's pop punk and there's pop punk and there's pop punk and there's different styles. And, often I think when people talked about Sicko, they said, well, they're probably more of the tribe of pop punk of the Mr. T Experience and Jawbreaker and J Church, all bands we toured with, actually. And in fact, all bands on the same booking agent, now that I remember. And that was sort of our people. And so, and I think the subjunctives are certainly, trying to exist in that same vein. And so I think that it's sort of it's a relevant reference, at least in terms of the milieu.
And how have you felt about, there's been a lot of awesome things that I read online and seeing people talk about about the album. How do you feel continuing to be where you are? And this is an ageism question, and I can do it because I'm old as well. But doing the pop punk thing and still doing it and coming up with a new band. I mean, how have you felt about how people have received it around the world?
Well, I guess the it's a varied, like a lot of things with bands, it's sort of a mixed bag. I think on the surface, a lot of people are very supportive and congratulatory and sweet about it, and write me very heartfelt notes, expressing thanks that we are doing this and appreciation. And people react positively to it in many cases. And so for me, that reaction is wonderful to read in the press and wonderful to read in my emails and instant messages, and just a real source of joy for me. So that's great. I think on the other hand, one of the things about this modern context that is a little tough, can be a little tough, is you get negative feedback very directly. Like people will say to you something cruel on Facebook, and that's part of pushing an album is advertising on social media. And so you'll get some comments they're pretty mean. Usually they're stupid comments. Often they're not even about the music. They're often about how old we are, or fat we are, or something. And so for that, I had to come to grips with that, because you're not used to, back in the day, you didn't really have that. And what I have done now to sort of condition myself is I keep a secret Google Doc with all the mean comments anyone has ever written about us.
You find their IP addresses and their home addresses, and you.
No. I just keep them because I think they're funny. I think the two funniest, I got dozens of them. I think, and this is usually accompanied with video, like the two funniest ones are, so the first one was simply, do you guys play pig roasts? And we're not small men. We're fat. Jeff and I are big guys. I'm bigger than Jeff is, right? Like, we're not skinny guys. And so that was pretty hysterical. But the new one that I love the most is someone wrote, what do they call it? AARP 182. So there's often some reaction about, how we look, whatever. And, it is what it is. I can't control what people think. And what I do know is that there's a lot of people, many, many, many people, and I've done a lot of research on this and very specific marketing analysis to go with it. There's a ton of people that like what we're doing and like what we're saying and have had the experiences that we've had and have come from the places that we've come from. And I mean, to like a very, very almost scarily parallel backgrounds as the guys in this band. And the things that we're saying and the music that we're playing resonates to them and it speaks to them. And I'm trying to find those people. And I know they're there. I know there's actually tens of millions of them. And I'm not really out trying to convert people who think pop punk is stupid or something, or, think a punk band should be only guys who are 22 and cute. I
don't think that was ever a punk band.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. And so I'm not trying to convert anybody, and I try to laugh my way through the hate. But there's people there's plenty of people who are glad that we're doing what we're doing and are thankful that we're, willing to take the risk of being at this age and doing it. So it's it's like a lot of things with music, ups and downs, positives and negatives. But for me, on the whole, it's a positive. I guess I would say, just with regard to the age thing, also, I think that age is clearly, it's the elephant in the room when you're old and you're playing music like this. It just is what it is. And people are like, you're 53, almost 54, and you're playing in a pop punk band? What the heck? And, I've lived many lives in many places, lived overseas. And, I've found that what I really like doing is making music. And I like this kind of music, making records and getting together with friends and playing music and performing in local clubs and playing little tours. And to me, that's fun. And that's what I intend to do with my time. There's always someone telling you that you can't do this and you can't do that. And I feel like it's easy to say, oh, well, people think I'm old, or people think I'm fat, or people think I'm ugly, or I'm bald, or whatever it is. I shouldn't be doing this. And I think those are excuses that the world is ready to hand you at any moment to stop trying to do something that you care about. And I just choose to look at that as, another version of the voices we've heard all our lives saying, you're not good enough to play guitar in a band, or you're not funny enough, or witty enough, or you're not good looking enough, or whatever it is. Take my.
I think you're all those things.
Thank you. That's kind. I appreciate that. There's always someone there to tell you that. But, whatever they're dealing with that's making them say that, if you take that at face value and make a decision on that basis, you're sort of like, it's almost like you were kind of looking for an excuse. And so I just, I shrug that stuff off. I do write down the hate and laugh about pig roast and all that. I love it when some guy who looks like the worst kind of person with like some Confederate flag behind him or something says that my band is gay AF. Like, I'm like, awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Donald. What
you should do with that list is the next time you play live is in between every song, read something off of it.
Oh, geez. Well, I've been thinking, I love these kind of long running projects where you're working on something for a long time and you sort of, you create something beautiful out of this sort of found experience, found art. But yeah, so, it would be wonderful to be younger or whatever, and I'm not, and this is the time I've got left to do the thing that I really like, and I'm very certain that this is the thing that I like. So we just keep on. And that's, in a sense, that tone permeates this record. We decided to call it Let's Try This Again because we just keep trying this. I mean, Jeff's been trying this all his adult life. I've been trying this all my adult life. Wendell has been trying it all his adult life. And whatever, losses or changes or horrible impediments like COVID come along, we're actually just going to keep doing this. And so some crackpot who thinks that I don't look like what he thinks a pop punk singer should look like, he goes into the large bucket of things that I ignore as we try this again.
Well, and as I said earlier, when we started this, I mean, it was so nice to find new old pop punk, right?
Yeah.
It was just that I played it for my friend today. I was like, dude, these guys are awesome. I'm like, you remember Sicko? It's kind of of that ilk. I'm like, It's fast, it's true, it's complex in its simplicity, and the song's over in 2 minutes and it leaves you wanting more. I go, and that's all I ever look for.
I mean, those are very much the things that I aspire to generally in music, and we are aspiring to on this record. And we made it pointedly about 90s themes, 90s references. I think we were veering towards that anyway, just in terms of, our tastes. But, I made a conscious effort to talk about smart punk, to talk about Lance Hahn, to name drop Dr. Frank and Milo Ackerman and make Henry Rollins jokes. And these were intentionally placed there because we were interested in the themes of that genre of music from that time, which, for Jeff, he was a teenager. For me, that was me in my 20s, and, sort of integral to my development as a writer of music. And it's kind of my happy place in a lot of ways in terms of music. So I think it's natural that we ended up there. But it was also perhaps even more intentional than it had been on prior efforts.
Well, thank you for creating it. And, doesn't matter how old you are. This is, my mantra, keep creating and I'll keep listening. That's all. It's all you got to do. Don't ever stop doing it, because without people like you who still love doing it and are still great at it, it would be a huge disservice to the world if you just said, I don't want to do this anymore.
Really appreciate you saying that. Thank you so much.
Here's going to be the question before we go into our. This is the hard one. This is the hard hitting hidden tracks question.
Okay.
Meteors crashing into the earth within the next 5 minutes, and you have to listen to one song before it all goes away. What song do you listen to?
Well, I guess I'm gonna go way back, and I'm gonna put on "New Day Rising" by Husker Du.
Uh-huh. Very good. You got to that very quickly. I'm very very happy about that. Means you may have thought about your own mortality at once or twice. Going back to High Fidelity, that's the making a perfect funeral playlist, right?
Oh, that's right. The funeral playlists.
Yeah.
And he kept changing them, didn't he?
Yeah.
That's so awesome. I read that book on tour. My girlfriend at the time bought it for me. She said, I think you'll like this. And I read it on tour and I loved it. And then I watched the movie and I thought the movie was great too. And I just thought, I know so many of these guys.
Yeah.
And I think they were honest about like how sometimes that set can be a little harsh.
Yeah, harsh, snobby, very opinionated, but I think that's what makes us great, is because we're not afraid to give our opinion to something. And especially if someone fights back on it, that's where it gets good. That's how this show started, was me arguing with friends around a fire of, perfect albums and who's good and who's not. And, someone being like, dude, turn this off. This is fucking terrible. I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up. It's Stone Temple Pilots. They're good. Fucking deal with it. And like, that's it.
That's interesting. Yeah, I like it is fun to talk about music and what's good and what's bad. It's sort of interesting to bounce ideas off of people. That we had a lot more of that back in the day. Now, well, I do. My wife is really. It's also she's played in bands with me, and she's plays in lots of bands and many instruments, and we have a very musical household. And she doesn't really have the same tastes as me, and so we do get into some debates and arguments about, she's kind of more into like kind of creepy electropunk stuff. And so like, I think she sees this music as being a little saccharine and a little, oh, the sad boy broke up by the girl, like she loves to make fun of that. So we do have some spirited discussions about, but then again, we're all both like, oh, the Hives are so sick. We can never wait for the new Hives record. We're always like, oh my God, this is going to be rad. Both love Dinosaur Jr. and, but like all that, she's like, are you really Black Flagian again? And she's just not buying it. So there are divisions.
Well, so I just read an article recently, talk about Dinosaur Jr. We talked about covers before, and it was, when they covered The Cure, and so Jay sent it over to Robert Smith to say, hey, would you be okay with us putting this on our album? We did this because you're one of our favorite bands. And Robert Smith, the sad boy, whiny bitch that he is, and I love him to death. But he just wrote back, he goes, this is the best version of my song I've ever heard.
I mean, it's
do whatever
really
you
good.
Want with it.
It's really good. It's a really good cover. It's so funny you mentioned that. My daughter is 14 and has a little band, and she loves a lot of really cool music. She'll come and she's like, I need some more Pavement records, Dad. I'm like, right on, like hell yes, or she's like, yeah, I heard that this Be Abba Doobie record is kind of a little bit like Tanya Donnelly or maybe some other kind of like some dream pop from the 90s. Like, can you, and I'm like, yeah, so there, we actually have a good connection on that. And she likes The Cure and she likes Dinosaur Jr. So I bought her that maxi single, the one with all the etchings on the back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. And she thought that was the coolest fucking thing. Like, she was so into it. It was really cool to see her kind of be like, whoa, check, which is what I did back in like 1989 or something when that came out.
Yeah.
And just like the craziest, I'd never seen a record with, I'd seen, record picture discs. I'd seen, etching on the margin, when they write a little note, but I'd never seen that kind of art project. And it was so perfect with that song. And it's so like hooky and poppy, but also like kind of fucked up, like the way they do the chorus, all sludge and stuff. It really is one of the, maybe it is, that song's a really great song to begin with, but Robert Smith isn't wrong to say maybe that could be actually as good as or a better version than the original.
Yeah. Well, Ian, I've had a pleasure talking to you. We're definitely going to do this again. We're an hour and 10 minutes, 11 minutes now. And this is why I love music, because you can talk forever about it because it's so easy when you're music lovers. So
indeed. No, I really appreciate you having me on. It's been a pleasure, and I'm glad that I didn't go on for 3 hours just yamming about old stories. And we've got this to a respectable time. So that's excellent time management on your part.
Well, I'm a huge fan of podcasts, and the thing I hate most, like I try to keep it to drive time, like how long, especially being in the northern New Jersey area where you're just in traffic all the time, because there's nothing that I hate more than having to pause it and go back to it.
Yeah, that's great. I love that.
But right now, before we go into our weekly 3 segment, I'd love to give you this opportunity to tell your fans and your new fans that you're going to get from this show how it is to find everything that the Subjunctives are doing.
Yeah, great. The easiest way to find the Subjunctives music is to go to TDRecs, TDRECS.com. That's Top Drawer Records. I run the record label I have since 1992. All of our records are there, including the new one that's called Let's Try This Again. You'll also find records there by the Drolls, which is the project of Denny and Josh, who are the other 2/3 of Sicko. And I've got 2 of their albums on there and a 7-inch from them, and a number of other local pop punk bands. Also got compilations of Seattle pop punk from the festivals and from the 13 and 14 Soda Punks albums. So there's lots of stuff to check out at tdrecs.com, tdrecs.com.
Awesome. Well, we're in our weekly 3 segment. This is what we talked about earlier. 3 things that you're listening to that you would like people to check out. If you want them to be different than what you said earlier, or if you want to repeat them, you absolutely can. But 3 things from you and then 3 things from me.
Okay. So 3 things that I'm listening to right now, and I fully stand by. One, Marriage License is the name of the album. And it's by Drinking Boys and Girls Choir. They're a pop punk band out of South Korea. And I am also listening to the album You Can't Stay Here by Iron Chic. I think a lot of people know that record, but I'm just kind of new to it.
That's fine.
And then finally, I'm listening to Head Full of Snakes by Tightwire. Another just amazing hooky pop punk band with great songwriting.
Nice. All right. So my 3 for this week. First one is a band called Spice, all capital letters, SPICE, not Spice Girls, Spice. That's it. Name of the album is called Viv, VIV. And they're a Bay Area, I'm just going to say rock band. Let's make that very easy. Next is a band called Webbed Wing. Name of the album is What's So Fucking Funny. And if you know who Taylor Madison is formerly of Super Heaven. So he got a project called Webbed Wing. Really awesome. Check it out. And last but not least, this album, I can't wait for everyone to hear it, and it will be out by the time this episode premieres. But Calling Hours, the name of the album is Say Less. It's Popeye from Farside and the Garrett and a bunch of other guys from Don't Sleep, which was Roy Smalley's last band. Just absolutely fucking amazing. If you grew up with the Farside stuff, the Revelation Record stuff, this is it, all back in your face, and I can't wait for everyone to hear it. But it's Calling Hours, and the name of the album is Say Less.
I'm going to check out all of those bands. Those are all new to me. Thank you.
You're welcome. But Ian, thank you so much for not only spending some time with me today, but thank you so much for what you've given me in my life with your music. You've been a part of my life for longer than you've ever known. But it's amazing to finally have the opportunity to talk to you and to say personally, thank you so much.
Wow, that's really kind. It's so super appreciated. Thanks for having me on your show, and thanks for listening to my records over the years. I really appreciate it.
Everybody, you know what time it is now. It's time to go out, listen to the Subjunctives, and have a great fucking time.
I'm so glad you're here with me. I look like hell and I feel like crap. I got nowhere better to be. Come out of my shell, but I'm on my back. But I'm so glad you're here with me. So glad you're here with me. So glad you're here with me. So glad you're here with me.
Check your tone again.
Play solo. Ian, your guitar sounds like farts. What is that? Wrong button. Is Matt playing a gag on us? What is that? No, that's if you look over the overdrive pedal that I wanted you to use when you were up stage. Oh, you plugged me in a fart pedal, you wanker. Oh my god. Oh my lord. You see what you signed yourself up for?
Thanks again for tuning into the Hidden Tracks podcast. We hope you enjoyed this week's show. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at HiddenTracks99. Also, send all your submissions myhiddentracks99@gmail.com. Tune in next week. You may find your new favorite band, and don't forget to go out and have a great fucking time.